Hi, Ola. Thank you for taking the time to have this podcast. And actually, I'm very excited because few things. I started my journey as a designer, and so that's something. And I see your career. It's very how to put it? Like I like the aspect that you're not only a designer, but you also understand the coding aspect. You're also mentoring people and also, being a woman in tech, I think that itself is also very interesting for me as well. But yeah, thank you. And how's your day going so far?
Yeah, it's going fine. So thank you, Imran, for having me today. Hi, everyone. I will quickly introduce myself. So my name is Olga. I am a lead UX UI designer at Dish. I am also a book author, mentor, and a founder. And last year, I've completed the full stack development bootcamp. So I am a unique design unicorn, as you mentioned, who can do both design and develop. And I am based in Ukraine right now.
Oh wow. Wait. So I didn't know that part with you a little bit. How is everything in Ukraine right now?
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
it's you how is it? I don't know. I don't have words,
Yeah.
so I'll ask you.
So yeah, I'm in Kiev right now. The situation is very calm, I would say, in comparison to what was before. In general, everything is good. And yeah, we work, we live, we feel pretty confident about our security. So everything is good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no, because I keep reading news and people around me who are from Ukraine as well, close people as well. So had to ask. But before we go into much deeper into conversation, I want to lay the foundation. So a question I have from you all that you are also a mentor, right?
Yes,
Great. So you're a mentor. You have been in industry for how long? You've been
around 10 years. Yeah, exactly 10 years.
so a decade is a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
So can you emphasize, because I know when I talk about it, a lot of people who I work with, whether they're in marketing or, non-product folks, or maybe some product folks, they always feel design now is becoming more better. So let me pose the question. Why is it really important for a business to have a good craft for product? So hence the UI UX. How would you say that? Like, why is that?
Yeah. And I think my answer will be in multiple directions. So let's review design, first of all, as a competitive advantage. So, for example, when we talk, especially for startups, but also for any type of business, if you have well-crafted design, you can go beyond your competitors. That means that you will have a good visual presentation for your clients, for other businesses you work with. And what is the most important out of what I highlighted right now is that you can actually use the best techniques to provide users very fast and reliable solutions. So just a quick example, when I create a product from scratch, I see that often business has a solid idea and they usually might even have wireframes. So it's like a skeleton of the future product.
Yeah.
And for example, if design step will be skipped and immediately development will be started, there is a high chance that this particular product will not be used by users as it was used with a great design. The
Mm.
main concern and the main power of the design in that we can show the simplicity of product usage. We can show the best approach for users rather than rely on intuitive solutions from
Yeah.
the user. We guide them how to use a product. So I would say these reasons are the most important. And other reasons that I would also uh, always highlight that within the design, you can highlight your brand. It means uniqueness. It means that people will remember your particular product and associate your brand with a product. So in long term, it's also very strong point in the design.
So, and totally agree with you, Ola. And one of the interesting thing I want to add there is, but I have also consistently gotten like people pushing back. I've been in situations, or in my previous team has been, where the product team doesn't care or care less about design. For them, it's like just looking good, look and feel. And the counter argument, so I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. People will say, yeah, it's a good design, but it doesn't bring the dollar. It doesn't bring the revenue. It doesn't bring X, right? If you think from the CEO perspective, they're like, why are we investing in design? Why does it matter? I have to report numbers to my stakeholders, to my shareholders. So they always poo-poo. And that's the reality, right? So how would you push back to something like that with design data-driven approach then?
Yeah, I would say that this is a frequent situation that business doesn't understand how design usage might benefit them because simply they are not professionals in the design area. So in such solution, I always provide example that, okay, you can create a product, you are great, but can you develop a product as a businessman, or can you do marketing by yourself, or can you test your product? The same happens with design. Everyone basically can do design. Let's be honest, everyone, we
Mhm.
all can design something, but what level of design it would be?
Yeah.
Even like button color and the type of click,
Mhm.
interaction can affect the product. So it's just a quick small example how design can affect usage. And
Yeah.
when it comes to heavy products, all these components, all these like design patterns, they matter so much. And for the business, it means having a good design, it's higher sales, for example, or higher satisfaction rate or other metrics that they are looking for in their products.
That's true. I agree. I'm don't disagree. But why is that there's this thing? And I don't get it myself, right? So I've been in both sides, product and design, and I tend to be in both places because I feel like product, you can't build a good product if you don't have a good understanding of the customer needs, which again translates from design approach first, and then because product is basically what? You're solving a use case, right? Like a solution that you're offering. How do you do that? Is by way of design, right? And of course, engineering builds it. But how would you argue with someone who is, or not argue the right word, like push back that, hey, is like, I agree. Let's say I'm the CEO and I agree, but it's not going to bring me $2 million. How can you argue that? Like, even push back with some heavy um, reasoning, basically, with analytical or data-driven approach in this case. How would you push back? And
Yeah.
the reason, sorry, the reason I'm asking is because a lot of designers will watch it, and a lot of designers do go through the same issue. So I want to address it with you because you mentor, so I just want to, yeah.
Yeah, so my answer to this question would be that business and many people basically think that design it's only about visual presentation, like colors, typography, how it will look like, maybe some wow effects. But in reality, there is a term which you've mentioned already, user-centered design, and it means whenever there will be a new product that every designer will start to work with, either create a new or improve the current one, there will be always focus on the user, which means, for example, you can create 10 solutions for the same problem, but which one will work the best? How can you know as a business which one will work? There are some specific design stages like research, working with user testing methods and tools just to confirm that your solution will survive on the market and this is actually a valuable solution for the users. So rather than think about design as investment in the beauty, it's better to think about design as the investment in the quality and long-term success of the product for the business, for the customers. So I would go with this explanation.
No, no, I totally agree. And I hope those who are listening or watching this or whatever, wherever they're looking at it, I think I want to enunciate that again. That is the keys, right? Like if you take Airbnb, for example, right? Like Slack was a better designed product compared to HipChat. Do you remember HipChat, which
Yeah.
was, I think, Atlassian owned, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not gonna poo-poo them. Like it wasn't a good product in the end of the day. It's the reality. That's why they discontinued. But Slack took over. Airbnb is designed for still, and it does leaps and bounds. So shifting a gear a little bit, we talked about user-centered design. Let's dive into deeper. How would you describe to a non-designer or a product person who is, design ignorant in this way, or anyone
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't like, thinks design is the third thing, not the second more, if not the second, at least the third thing, right? How would you describe what is user-centered design? What are some key principles? So just to, people have a better understanding of why. And if you can use some like case study, that would be helpful, if possible.
Yeah. So let's say like that user-centered design, it's not only the technical word per se, but I would describe in simple words like imagine your ideal client and put yourself in your ideal client's place. What would you expect from the product as an ideal client? How would you think about the product? And for example, if there are already competitors, why would you still want to try other product? Maybe you miss something, maybe you dislike something. So like in simple words, it's an ideal client who will be using your product. And so understanding this concept will help you to further proceed with solutions in the design. So for example, I got one case study example. I was working in one startup and they just started from scratch. They didn't have anything like ready, just the idea, business vision, solid understanding, and we started to work on the wireframes. But there were too many solutions. And because this is a startup culture, everyone has own opinion, which is absolutely fine. But 10 people, it means 10 opinions. How to agree on one opinion only. So this is why rather than rely on your own opinion, which is kind of bias in terms of the design process, I would say let's think as your ideal client, and that transforms into user-centered design. So when I was working at startup, we used those approach and it helped us to understand what are our three top priorities in terms of the functionality, because especially for startup, it's important to work with the MVP understanding when you don't have anything and you need to build on only crucial features for your business, and then afterwards you will scale your product. So user-centered design, this approach and design principle also is the basis for startups and also for business.
No, and you're actually spot on that. It's the best way you can step outside and be like, it's not about you, and it's not about you. You tell that to everybody, and you're
Exactly.
like, this is about the customer that you're building for, right? And that's the best part of this approach. So to double click on this, what would you say people should avoid when they're into user-centered design approach? When they're sitting in the customer persona, they're thinking about customer journey, right? What are some key mistakes or reoccurring themes around the mistakes that you've seen that people make? Whether you're a designer, whether you're a company, could be anybody. What are those, in your opinion?
Uh, I think the biggest mistake, which I already mentioned, is biased opinion. Even, for example, if you put yourself into your ideal customer place, you will still think as a designer somehow. So it's very important not only imagine yourself as an ideal client, but also communicate with your target audience. So um, that will help you to make a distinguish between yourself and the target audience. For example, if you don't have like real customers, find quick example, Facebook groups that will be targeted with some particular niche that will be for your business ideal, and then create a survey. By the way, there will be many groups that would be open to do so for free, and just ask what people think about your idea, about your features, product, etc. So this basis will help you to avoid your biased opinion. And also, there is another mistake that I often see, and I did that in my very beginning of career. So I started with one solution and I thought that it's an ideal. So this is a big mistake. It's very important to brainstorm ideas, like multiple ideas. Not everything will be designed eventually, but as a starting point, you will have some options, and then you can think what would work the best. So having the ability think with multiple solutions along with understanding of your ideal persona, I think this would be the best approach. And not doing these two things, I think these are the major mistakes that I saw often from my mentees and from myself when I just started a career.
No, this is very valuable. I'm actually gonna cut this piece out so people can watch it because sometimes it's right in front of you, Ola, but it's not enunciated or pronounced in a way that you tend to just ignore, you know. So I think that's really important piece. So going to another piece, when you look at your career, you have 10 years of design experience, you have mentored people, right? But you also did full stack academy or something basically, right? You went through the full stack developer. You did mention that I'm not doing any coding yet, but I want to still double click on that. The reason for that is I consider that as a design unicorn, right? Or here's the why am I saying the word design unicorn? If you think of product has three important pillars. You have the UX, you have the engineering part, and then you have itself the product management part, right? Like building, understanding use cases. If you have these two, you're probably in the unicorn space. If you have all, then you're probably a decacorn. I'm just coining my words at this point. And so you understand not only from design, but from engineering perspective. First, tell us a little bit more about the full stack experience you had. Where did you have that? If people who are interested, what are they looking at? Let's say a designer going into that. So let's just double click on that first, and then we can move towards your how is it helping you out?
Yeah, so actually, I would like to start maybe why I decided to learn full stack development initially. I think a few years ago, when I was working during one of my projects, I had a feeling that I'm reviewing the project as a designer and I find so many mistakes, like visual mistakes, and I want to improve those ones immediately. But because I don't have enough skills in the development world, I can't actually go and code myself. I needed to write feedback to a developer or a team of developers and explain what actually needs to be improved here. So back those time, I thought maybe it would be a great idea to try coding myself. And I tried to learn coding 3 times, 2 times by myself. And on the last time I was successful because I joined bootcamp. But initially I thought that I learned so many design things by myself, so development should be also doable. It was doable, but it was like I needed to spend a lot of hours, and I wasn't ready to do those journey by myself because there was no mentor, there was no support. But initially, the idea that I can actually code the solution that I designed will be perfect because I can feel how this thing will work, how I will click on the button, how the hover effect will work, what animation should I use in particular areas. So this was my first idea. And then uh, in the end of 2022, I started bootcamp where I thought that I will join only as a front-end developer learning, but I ended up with front-end and back-end. So 1 year of extensive knowledge helped me to understand how to design things in a new way. So for example, before I thought that design, user-centered approach, everything is good here, but I was very focused on creativity direction rather than logic. But as everyone knows, programming is very logical direction. There is almost no creativity like per se, but there are some other thinking way. So I think first couple of months was changing mindset from creativity to logic. And once I graduated, I got tremendous benefit. Right now, I can build logic in my design. So I'm not focused on like artistic direction or maybe some super creative icons. Like all those small elements right now are not important to me. Those things won't work if your whole solution isn't working properly. So right now, whether I'm working on a new project or improving the current one, I am always focused on the logic, how the user will click, go to some other screen, and the most important question, how developer will create my solution. Because before it was a creativity solution, yes, it's doable outside of grids, yes, it's creative, it's quite normal, but in reality, it means for a developer more time, for business, it means more money. And with development knowledge right now, I do understand that if we have enough time, then I can go creative. If not, then I will be more strict and stick to grids or layout system that we are using. So I think that right now I have a better balance between creativity and logic. And especially when I work with developers, I have another benefit. We speak the same language. So I can say like, hey, you need to correct this div, which holds another elements. Like I can go very detailed. Before, I couldn't do so. I will explain like you need to change this color in this component, which for developer is kind of okay. But when I say exactly, hey, here you need to change font size from 24 to 32, for example, and I'm highlighting the exact div, I can go to the inspect mode, highlight those one, and this is just a quick example.
No, this is great. Like I think it does really change the communication when you are
Absolutely.
working with the engineers. An example for that is I had the same experience where we were doing this is the whole new design system, right? And they were like, "Hey, we are using, I think that we're using material design that Google has. So if you want, we can rechange. It's a lot of work." But when you have that context, it's like, "Hey, you don't have to plug in, plug out. It's a lot of work. Let's just iterate on that because these are some X, Y, and Z. Will this possible?" But do you think that you've gone now through the full stack experience, it is really helping you communicate? Would you recommend that to someone else? Because one can argue a designer could be like, hey, you want me to go ahead, study so much. Oh, I can just read. I don't need to do it, right? Like there's also that. So who is the full stack engineering aspect, who is also a designer, is fruitful for? Like, how would you say the career trajectory, or like just to give some guardrails, like who is it suitable for?
Yeah. I think the perfect example when I talk to my mentees and they ask the same question, should I learn full stack development or front end or at least HTML and CSS? So it really depends on where you are currently and what are your long-term goals. For example, if you are a junior designer, I wouldn't recommend to learn full stack development because you need to focus on the design area first. Learn UI basics, learn UX, maybe psychology, how to use the colors according to psychology knowledge. And then starting from maybe middle level of your career, think about not full stack, but front-end development. Actually, I went through full stack development, but I don't plan to use backend because it's absolutely different world. And a perfect combination as my personal understanding for a designer is UX UI design plus front-end development. This is an ideal hybrid, and this is actually a unicorn type of a designer that I planned initially, but I just got a very nice proposal in terms of the education. This is why I decided to learn backend, which actually is a beneficial understanding of how things work inside of the product. So when you do front-end work, you do understand what is going on inside of the box. So, but in general, like designers in the junior level career, in the education journey or internship, definitely know for learning full stack development if there is a huge passion or like I want to learn that. Okay, start from the simple HTML and CSS. It's not full stack development. Actually, it's not development at all, but it will help you to create more grid-centered and layout-centered design. This can be beneficial because HTML and CSS is very simple and there is no logic in comparison to, for example, JavaScript and React, that these are technologies that I learned. So yeah, when you will be in your senior level, for example, as I'm a lead UX UI designer, and so senior level, I consider multiple paths for my career. So if you want in long term learn full stack development, you are welcome to do so.
No, this is a really good breakdown for someone who wants to get into full stack, because it can be for everyone, right? Like you have to go through, it's a learning process. You need to have that aptitude and you have to figure out if it's fruitful for you. Some people may think, I'll get a job in full stack engineering, hurrah, which is can happen. I've seen people do that. But you're like, hey, if you want to do it, this is just for you leveling up in your design journey. This is how you're using it. Now, I want to shift into talking about your mentee experience, right? Mentoring experience, and how your mentees have been feeling. That's what I meant. So you are a mentor, right, at ADP
Yeah.
list.
Yes.
Why did you decide to become a mentor? I always have to ask.
Yeah, and that happened unexpectedly. I didn't plan to become mentor, to be honest. In 2020, I started to write on Medium, and my goal was to share my experience and just help other people to learn design or become a better designers if they're already like interns or junior levels. And just in 2 years, my writing got, I think, more than 13K followers or something like that.
Wow.
And many people started to reach out to me and asking for some guidance, some questions and tips. And I figured out that I need to find some way to not only write and explain design things, but also have more personal connection with people. So
Hmm.
I started to search maybe for some platform because I didn't want to use Zoom or Google Hangout. I wanted that there will be some also records of what I'm doing, because, for example, if there will be a follower from Medium who knows me, then he or she will trust me. But for example, if there will be totally other type of people from maybe Facebook or LinkedIn, because I had so many requests. I wanted to create a safe place
Hmm.
for people that they will see that here is my profile, here are my links. I'm trustful person. And I found ADP list and I sent the application. I think after a few days or weeks, I don't actually remember how long it took, but they approved me.
Hmm.
So my first mentees were my Medium followers.
Nice.
And after that, I just started to uh, send messages to people on Facebook, LinkedIn, that, hey, I'm on ADP list, and if you need my help, you are welcome. Just book a calendar and I will answer your questions. And within a year, I think, right, I don't remember exactly, but I think something like around here, I almost hit 5K mentoring hours on ADP list.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, right now, if you'll go to my profile, I'm very close to 5K, and
Nice.
it wasn't my purpose. When I started initially, I had like days when I mentored 4, 6, and even 8 hours per day. Um, and it was for, I think, 1 or 2 months, because I had a huge backlog of people who was waiting
Yeah.
for this opportunity. And within time, I got like a few mentees per week, a few mentees per month, and I also started to walk more. So I still mentor, but I do less mentorship right now in comparison to my very beginning of the mentorship journey.
Wow, that's phenomenal, and that is very impressive. So, is there a cost to it? I have to ask, right? Like,
No, no. I know that there is a paid program on ADP list.
yeah,
I didn't join those one, and I mentor for free. I have 45 minutes of 3 types of mentorship. It's either general review of your situation and general advice, CV and LinkedIn, and the third one is portfolio review. So I'm concentrated on those directions.
nice. And so anybody can reach out to you through ADB list. I
Yeah.
will drop in a link, so I
Mhm.
will do that so people can reach out. And what is some like uh, I want to click on something. So you see with the Ukrainian war, I know a lot of Ukrainians who have also come here. I have some personal people in my life as well from Ukraine as well. And they're looking for, getting into design as well. What is a takeaway that you can give, or not even Ukrainian specifically, like those who are in the same scenario, right? That to come here to United States specifically, right? And now they have a challenge because they don't have work history here. They don't have the same background, right? So imagine they were working in a different department. I'm just going to say marketing or logistics, something that's not really relevant to tech. How would you say, or what would be your guiding step if you were to give some advice to them, anybody in that step, in that shoe?
Yeah. And actually, I had a few mentees from Ukraine who relocated to Canada and United States, and they struggle with exactly this problem.
Yeah,
So because of the war, they decided to change their career path because they were no longer able to continue their like traditional career that
yeah,
they were into before the war started, and they switched to UX UI design. And when they relocated, they figured out that, hey, we have some certifications, we know some basic of the UX UI design, but when we apply for jobs, we don't get any feedback. So their main question was, what's wrong with us?
yeah.
So maybe we have something wrong with our CV or LinkedIn, or maybe we have a weak portfolio. And
Hmm.
in 99%, when I check the CV, LinkedIn, or portfolio, yes, there is a space, there is a room where you can improve something.
Hmm.
But the major problem is that they don't have real commercial experience. And even if they did previously
Yeah,
in Ukraine, they don't have US or Canada based
yeah,
experience. And this is a big problem for them. So when I explained that you're a strong candidate in your junior level, but because of not having this commercial experience, you struggle with this situation currently.
yeah.
So they ask me, okay, we understand. So what we can do actually to improve or somehow know the strategy. And I always recommend start to gain those experience. My very first approach would be to either find a volunteer work within your location. So, for example, United States,
Yeah.
find some uh, non-profit company that does some very valuable work and
Hmm.
provide valuable services, and think what you can do for them. And there are many websites that I share, and I've used personally one such website where you just register, and there will be a list of nonprofit companies who are looking for designers, developers, and other professionals in the
Hmm.
tech field. So send your application, and help those nonprofit company. There will be huge benefit from those one. You can add commercial experience because yes, you are not getting paid for that,
Yeah.
but you actually doing real things. So it can be website, can be application. This is something that will be online once you are done. So
Yeah.
this is approach number one that I would personally recommend. The approach number two is to look for a startup in the very beginning of their journey. So, for example, a startup that is incorporated already, so they might not have office, for example, but they are legit. They have LLC or other forms of the company. So some of them even might have LinkedIn icon.
Hmm.
And when you send applications to startups, they are more open-minded
Yeah.
because they are very limited in the budget. They are very more welcoming new designers like junior levels, interns, because again, they are cut on their budget.
Yeah.
So the great idea to just send your applications, your CV, your LinkedIn profile to startups and communicate with them, because in startups, unlike enterprise and middle level companies, you can actually talk directly with the manager, director, and even the owner, like a founder.
Hmm.
So there is no bureaucratic processes
Yeah.
inside of startups because they are very fast, lean, and they need to move fast in order to survive on the market. And
Hmm.
usually startups, they are open to hire junior level designers, and this is a strong benefit, even I would say more than volunteer experience, because in volunteer experience you get real projects which you can transform into commercial experience.
Hmm.
But with startups, it might transform into full-time paid job eventually. For example, if
Yeah.
startup gets investment on time or get monetized in some other ways. Plus, startup will have LinkedIn icon logo, which will be beneficial
Yeah.
because when you go as a junior designer to your interview and LinkedIn profile is number, I think, 2 after your CV,
Yeah.
thing that will be reviewed by a recruiter, you will have some icon, which will be a proof that, hey, you have a commercial experience. So these two approaches, I think, is the best, which will give you some beginning commercial experience. Because what I often hear from my mentees that, hey, we want to use Upwork or we might want to use some other similar platform,
Yeah.
and freelance is not commercial experience. Unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
not connected to this thing.
No, no, you're right. And I did myself the same thing when I got here in US. I was from Pakistan originally. And when I came here, though I have my startup experience, but over here was challenging to translate into that. So I joined a startup. I was early in the beginning, and they asked me to do a prototype. The founder had a good background. She's really great in pitching. We had another person as well, and we were able to raise, I think it was three or four of us, able to raise $3 million, and it became a
Wow.
job, right? And for me, it's like, okay, design has a lot of power. So I come from always from that perspective, but also what you're saying, I'm basically validating what you're saying, that because people will be like, hey, yeah, she's saying, but I want to be like that person. Hey, she's right. She is 100% right. It works. But here's one last question, and then I want to move towards, parting thoughts, any advice, for anyone that you have. But one question, there are a lot of Ukrainians who have good English. So this is what I've seen. And let's even forget Ukrainians for a second. Let's say a foreigner coming from a foreign land, right? So you may not, like, you can be from Pakistan, you can be from Ukraine, any country at this point. Their English is, a more or less communication could happen, but it's not the way you and I were talking. We're having a conversation. You can have a conversation, but you know what I mean, right? It's not
Yeah.
quite the level. They try doing, and this is the reason I'm asking, because I actually wonder how would they do that, right? Like if you're a designer, you need to know a communication level, right? So how would you recommend for them? Like they will do learning languages. They will do all this other stuff. They will even go to city college. There's free courses as well. But how would you, what is another, I guess, solution that you can say, hey man, they should do this?
Yeah. I think like English is another soft skill problem that many people experience. And I wouldn't say like go with traditional way, go to college or course
Yeah.
and learn English, because for most people it won't work because it's very boring and you need to spend a lot of time. You are not sure will it work for you
Yeah.
personally or no. And here I would say find your passion first. So for example, you can learn English uh, at home via multiple formats. Let's start from the obvious one, YouTube. It's a video format.
Hmm.
Then we have podcasts, audio format, writing, maybe writing on Medium, so it means reading on Medium.
Hmm.
So I would say find and think what you actually love to do. Do you love watch videos, listen
Hmm.
to podcasts, or read? Based on that, find the most interesting topics that you would personally would like to read, listen to, or watch. For example, I'm a big fan of Medium because I really love to write and read. This
Hmm.
is why I learn a lot of new words like technical and non-technical there.
Yeah.
And I also love to watch videos. I don't listen often to podcasts because when I'm concentrated on listening, I can't do multiple things at once. And I
Hmm.
usually do multiple things at once. With reading, I can read multiple articles at once. With YouTube, for example, I can watch video and listen. So it's kind of also hybrid for me. So starting from those, understand what source of the information will work for you the best, and then find the topics. Start reading, listening, or watching those one every day. Maybe, for example, I know one of my mentees, she actually started to watch comic videos, and because of those passions, she realized that right now she knows new vocabulary. So maybe
Nice.
start from something interesting, neutral, like non-tech and non-professional, because tech words. So for example, when I started to learn full stack development, there was totally new vocabulary for me, which
Yeah.
I knew, but not everything. So maybe it's a good approach to start from neutral topics. Maybe you like to cook, so start watching some recipe, maybe some preparing,
Yeah.
etc. If you like to, maybe you like to sing, so try to sing along with your favorite singers. So there are multiple things that different people like. Start from your passion and then eventually go to a new level. Maybe today you listen to a great music. Tomorrow, recap on those vocabulary, go and find the transcription and read exactly what you've heard and what you are trying to repeat, because the most for example, hard thing for me is to listen foreign music because there will be different
Yeah.
tonality and different pronunciation, so sometimes it's hard to understand words there.
Yeah.
But we have transcriptions, which means you can go read, and if you don't know some words, go to Google Translate and
Yeah.
actually listen to the pronunciation. So yeah, I would say find your unique way and start from there.
No, this is a like I think one thing I will say is you're right because when I was fortunate enough when I was a child, like when I was a kid, so I was fortunate to go to English school and all that stuff. But if I discount that, I think the big thing that I noticed was everywhere was I was communicating in English, I was reading in English, I was watching even television in English. And I swear I didn't understand some words when I was like 7 years old. But now when I look back, I'm like, I get what they're talking about. I know what the show is about, right? And I think that really helps. Just the last piece, any parting thoughts that you have that you would like to share? Could be
Yeah.
about anything.
I think I want to give the biggest advice that I often hear from my mentees. So they always ask me one thing, that I'm currently struggling with finding a job. So my biggest question is whether or not I should continue my struggle. Maybe I'm not a good designer and maybe I need to give up. So my advice would be, don't give up, and believe it or not, eventually everyone will find a job. It's just the matter of time, your efforts, and like the skill, how you present yourself. So if you can manage those things, eventually you will get a job offer. Never mind about like tech layoffs and all those stuff that's going on right now, because in tech industry, it happens from time to time. There are some circles that repeats. So if you want to become UX UI designer and you already started those paths, don't give up. Everything will be fine. Just push yourself up to the limits.
Thank you, Ola. This is I'm gonna also make sure I put that out there. Thank you for joining the podcast with Imran Sheikh. I really appreciate your time, and I know probably it's late since you're in Ukraine, so I really appreciate it even more further. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today.